our Morton spot, our SmackDown review this week. Yeah, so I'll just go my likes and dislikes on this one. Um, Randy Orton's really trying to get a match with Owens, so much so that he's like on his way to the ring as soon as we open the show. He stops at the gorilla table and says something to Triple H. We don't know what he's saying. Like it doesn't, there's no mic or whatever. So we don't know what he's saying to Triple H. And then he goes to the ring and he's like, you know what? Since last week Nick Aldis said I'm uh it was above his pay grade that I couldn't have this match. I want to talk to the guy above his pay grade. So Triple H, get out here. And one thing I really liked, a little funny part of this kind of serious segment, is that right when he said that, Triple H's music starts playing, and then it cuts the camera back to Triple H at the table, sitting next to the guy who starts the music, and he's like, and Triple H is looking at him like, "The fuck did you do that for?" And then the dude just like backs away from the table and gets up and moves so Triple H can get up and come through Gorilla. So that was pretty
I
funny.
I like those little bits of humor there. Like it's like, what are you doing? Like it's
Right,
like
right.
I didn't tell you to do that. Why? Well, that's what we normally do. That anytime anybody gets called out, yeah. And who tells you
Right.
to?
Right. So that was kind of funny. I enjoy funny in wrestling. I like my goofy stuff. Triple H is a really good like what the fuck face, so that made it
Yeah,
better.
he's a great
Um,
straight man when he's actually paired with something funny and someone funny.
so he worked that one good. So anyway, um, that was a big like for me. Interesting note, kind of goes with what we were talking about the other day about producers and stuff and like the kayfabe thing. The bottom third, when Triple H makes his entrance, now says Paul Triple H Levesque.
Ooh,
Yeah,
wow.
so
He
the
went
bottom
full Ron
third
Simmons, huh?
on the television, the bottom third says his
Yeah,
actual
damn.
name. During the promo, though, Randy Orton used that to his advantage, kind of. He's like, I'm not here to talk to Paul. I want to talk to Triple H. Like, if you're the guy who knocked my, yeah, I love callbacks just like you. So here's something else I love. During the promo, he's like, Triple H is the guy I want to talk to because Triple H is the guy who showed up at my house and beat my front door down with a sledgehammer and drug me out and whooped my ass on my own front lawn. So I'm here to ask Triple H what he would do in this situation. I'm not here to talk to Paul.
That was in the lead up to WrestleMania 25.
Yes, it was. But
Yes.
fantastic callback. I loved that. I was like, hell yeah! I remember it was in the lead up to the WrestleMania we attended, so I was into it. I thought it was cool. Um,
Yeah.
I love callbacks. There was a couple on this show, so that it'll get a couple of callbacks will get a like out of me today. Dislike again. Multiple things are going to be packaged in one unfortunate segment for me, or a pair of
Mm.
unfortunate segments for me, but they're both the same thing. So they played a video package for Andrade and Carmelo. They have had 6 matches. They are 3-3. They are both chasing a shot at the U.S. champion, LA Knight. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Somebody I like, but actually after all of this, kind of like less. And it's not. I don't know if it's him or if it's the booking. Well, I'll explain. So they're having a U.S. They're having a game 7 match because of course it's the 7th match between the two of them over the last few weeks.
And the World
And,
Series is on. Yeah.
yeah, and all that. So it's a game 7 match. LA Knight is the special guest referee. Now, a bright spot in all of this is that LA Knight came out in his regular street clothes, like his skinny jeans and his very nice brown leather boots and this LA Knight vest that he wears. He usually does not wear a shirt underneath it. Underneath said vest, he had on a sleeveless referee shirt. So he just dressed like he always dresses, but he had his referee shirt. Now, when he came out, he had the U.S. title like in his hand and over his shoulder and all that stuff, blah, blah. The match starts, he puts it on. He's refereeing with the U.S. championship on. But then once he figures out that the action's going to be quick and he's going to have to slide around and stuff, he ditches the belt smartly. Very smart
Yeah.
move. That thing would have caused a slide to turn into a tumble very easily. I know this from experience. Um, so yeah. So he ditches the belt. But funny part in the middle of all this stuff, he was wearing just, I mean, same stuff he always wears, sleeveless referee shirt under the vest. So the vest is still sleeveless. And then he's got the title on like for the first like 3 minutes of the match. Anyway, here's where we get to the stuff that I didn't like. Okay. At the end of the match, as they're going, what looks like they're going home. I mean, Andrade does like a springboard reverse Spanish fly, and they both
Okay.
took a really nasty face pancake bump out of it. So they were both selling it. It was pretty gnarly, but I mean, they had some really like Andrade and Mello can go together.
Yeah.
They have great in ring chemistry.
I'm not super aware or familiar with Mello, but I've been a big Andrade fan for a long time.
I'm a big
So I
Andrade fan.
know he can go.
Me being a big Andrade fan is one of the reasons why I didn't like how this turned out. So they're having good action. It looks like they're about to go home. Mello kicks out, and when he kicks out of a pin. When he kicks out, he throws Andrade on top of LA Knight. So LA Knight sells up kind of like a ref bump, but he's not as hurt as a ref would be. You know, he's not just out, but he's selling up. And as he's selling up into the corner, he's not looking at what's going on behind him with the match. Mello rolls up Andrade. The crowd counts a full 3, and Mello lets go and goes over and starts berating him. And then like Andrade goes to hit Mello, and Mello moves, and it looks like he's gonna hit LA Knight, but he pulls up short. But then Mello goes to super kick Andrade, and Andrade does move, and he super kicks LA Knight, and LA Knight powders out again. So then we get another sequence of moves, and Mello finishes it out with his finisher, and he goes for the pin. LA Knight gets up, and instead of going in and counting the pin, he grabs Mello's leg and pulls him out, because that's the dude that kicked him, you know.
Right.
So he pulls Mello out, he slams him on the table, and he goes in, and Andrade's like, "What the fuck did you do that for?" And LA Knight's like, "Go get him. He's out there." And instead of going out to get him, Andrade attacks LA Knight and gets a blunt force trauma for his fucking trouble. Then Mello comes in, tries to attack LA Knight, gets a blunt force trauma for his trouble. So both of the competitors in this super hyped, built for weeks, Game 7 match have just been blunt force trauma by the referee. He then goes to the timekeeper section. He rings the bell. He gets on the mic. He gets on top of the announcer's table. He calls them both losers and leaves.
I thought he was a baby face.
I thought so too. I was like, it's a one, very heelish move. 2, kind of a dick thing. 3, we've seen another situation very similar recently where somebody treated somebody like that who shouldn't have been treated like that. Like private party.
I mean, wouldn't it have been better if you just like, you can build to a no contest without having to do this?
Yeah.
Like, just go to a double count out.
Yeah.
Like,
I just like it.
Or instead of, retaliating, all he had to do was disqualify to both of them. Like,
yeah, he could have.
See, like that's what I'm saying. It's like it's not enough that it's bad. It could have been better, easily.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's room for improvement. This is what we're talking about. Constructive criticism. Like, it could have easily been.
Mm-hmm.
They just made it more convoluted than it needed to be.
Yeah,
and it sounded. I mean, what was the crowd reaction? Did they?
The crowd was hot, man. The crowd was hot. The match was good.
No, I mean for the finish, the weird finish.
They went dead. They died immediately. They didn't like it either. I don't think.
See, like it'd be one thing if they were booing, but if they didn't react at all,
I'll put it. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's the thing. Okay, they still did LA Knight's catchphrase with him after he called them losers right before he left. But it was, but this crowd was so, like, I have several notes in my notes talking about how hot this crowd was. They were hot.
Yeah.
They were hot. And his was that catchphrase after he did that. I think the people who did it probably just hadn't caught on to what exactly just happened yet. It was definitely not as loud as the other basic.
Were they in Chicago or Brooklyn? And
Brooklyn.
they taped next week's too, right?
Yeah, I think so. Because
they're going to be on a plane to Saudi Arabia the next week. Okay.
So, but I just didn't like the way they did this. Now, another thing I didn't like about this is that they mentioned that Andrade is the speed champion still. Guess what? He didn't carry to the ring with him.
The speed belt.
Yep. So we talked about this
I
already.
honestly don't even mind the look of the speed belt. It's
No, I don't.
fine.
I don't. I
It's
like
fine.
color, so it looks
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, so that's we already talked about this like last week, but we know why. I hated that. I hated that altogether. So all this together was pretty much the only stuff I didn't like about this show. Everything else I thought was pretty cool. Um, let's see. Another thing I liked. Um, Candice LeRae gets a match with Naomi. It ends in a schmoz, but it's pretty good. Candice LeRae getting more love. She's a heel. I like it.
Candice
Um,
LeRae, man, I'm so glad that they're giving her a little bit of a rub.
mhm,
She has been, I mean, I remember seeing some of her PWG stuff, and she is excellent.
mhm.
I mean, she is tough. Like for being a little pixie,
Yeah.
she is tough. Like, oof, yeah, like I wouldn't want to get in the ring with
Right. Um,
her.
next couple things I liked. So they did a throwback video package. It was the first time we saw John Cena, the Ruthless Aggression thing that kicked off the Ruthless Aggression era. I loved it. I always love callbacks. So bam, big ol' up. Then we had Cody versus Gunther face off. I know it's for Crown Jewel, but like I said, I could live off these guys' promos. Gunther admitted that it was out of line for talking about Cody's daughter last week, but then called Cody gutless to the point where Cody said, "You know what takes guts? Cutting off a civil conversation and throwing the first punch," and just decked Gunther. I loved it. I loved it. It was great. Can't say much more about it. It was a really long promo. Go check it out if you haven't. Um, other than that ugly ass belt being between the two of them, it was a really great war of words.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I said Punk and McIntyre level shit, they continue to stay on that same trend. It's good stuff. Despite what they're building to, it's good stuff. Then the last thing I liked, and kind of to wrap up the show, Motor City Machine Guns. Man, they're showing me more reasons to love them every week. And it's only
Those
been two
dudes have been
weeks.
so good for so
So
long.
here's the deal.
So glad to see them get their flowers.
It's been 2 weeks and they've had 3 matches. Here's why. They had their match against DIY for the number one contendership. Um, it was fucking great, man. It was great. Big old ding, ding, ding. I freaking loved it. It was brutal in the Ciampa was brutal to everybody in the best ways. The other three guys did their small man thing. Even though Ciampa's about the same size as all them, he was still the brute in the match. But he's a good brute, man. He really is a good
I
small
mean,
guy
look at
brute.
him.
Yeah. Great
He's
match
5'11", but
altogether.
he's way more jacked than you would think anybody of that height would be.
Crowd was super into it. But Pyro kind of telegraphed this one. The machine guns got Pyro, DIY didn't. I knew he was going to
Uh,
win right there. It's like when the challenger comes out after the champion. You just know.
yeah.
During this match, there's loud "We Want Roman" chants, which I didn't like, but
they'll, they'll probably get that crowd. Probably saw Roman
probably.
later that night.
Well, this is the end of the night, so here we go. Ready? Okay, so
Well, I mean, because they double taped it, is what I'm saying.
anyway, so Motor City Machine Guns win the match against DIY with a skull and bones, which is a cool finisher. I like it. He's like holding him in the stinger, in the death drop,
Yep.
scorpion death drop position, and he splashes off the top rope off onto that. Really
Yep.
cool move. So they get that on DIY. They win. Then the Bloodline shows up. Solo has Dom Mysterio level heat. He couldn't get a word out at first. So he welcomes them to SmackDown, tells them to acknowledge him. They are like, fuck that.
Yep.
Uh, Tonga and Tama are ready to wrestle and they've got their belts. Nick Aldis shows up and he's like, hey, we're not going to do this right here and make these guys wrestle 2 times in a row and waste this championship opportunity. And the Machine Guns are like, nah, fuck that. Let's do it. So they do it. Then Jimmy shows up and he takes care of Jacob Fatu and kind of shit cans Solo, but then they get the one up on him, and then Roman shows up and they fight back to the back, and then the champs, the Bloodline champs get chairs in the ring and they're about to use them. And Jey Uso shows up and he takes care of them, hits them with the chair. And then Motor City Machine Guns get the pin. They are new WWE Tag Team Champions. 3 matches in, 2 weeks in. Holy shit, crazy run. I love it though. Their matches have been great so far. So big old love from me. Another big love from me directly after the match. Jimmy comes back from brawling to the back. He sees Jay in the ring. He goes to the ring. Jimmy and Jay hug it out. So maybe we're going to get Motor City Machine Guns versus the Usos, which, yeah, let's do it. I loved it. But yeah, that's basically it for the SmackDown review this week. I really dug SmackDown this week. They didn't do that formatting thing that Raw kind of stole from them. They didn't do it at all. Yeah. So whoever's producing SmackDown, you're on the right track. Please go knock on the Raw producer's door and tell them to unfuck it.
And thanks for listening to our podcast.
And thanks for listening to our podcast if you're here. Yeah, we'd love to have jobs. We know you're hiring a writer.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that was our SmackDown review for the week, and that makes it time for the hot tag